What's going on, all you wild pandemic survivors? I'm your Uncle Logan Myers. It's my good mate over there.
Henry Hill.
Henry Hill, never heard of you. It's been too long. These wild boys have been a bit busy lately, but we're getting back at it. I've been watching a lot of shows across a lot of network streaming services. But tonight we're going to be talking about yet another HBO Max, HBO show that was released and really has to do with a lot of stuff going on, everything we've experienced the past 2 years, pandemic, having to do with the flu and wiping out a bunch of people and the survivors. We're talking about Station 11. This is adapted by Patrick Somerville. He did a really great show on HBO as well, The Leftovers. I know you're a huge fan of that. I only watched the first season, but it was good. But this time around, he's at the helm with this brand new show and having to do with this flu that really ends up taking out a lot of people throughout the globe. We have the survivors. You see a young girl set up in Chicago, which is very cool as a backdrop.
This series was adapted from a novel from 2014, written by Emily St. John Mandel. And basically they adapted it in the actual novel itself. It's kind of funny bit of side trivia here. In the novel itself, it's taken place in Canada. While for the series here, they changed it to Chicago. But when they were filming, the pandemic hit. So they actually had to move filming back into Canada and, still go with the Chicago, landscapes and everything. And when they showed downtown, they obviously filmed that when they were here filming in Chicago. But the pandemic in real life actually forced them to go back to Canada, which is where it all takes place in the novel. So another mind trip to add to this kind of mind trip of a show. Watching the first episode, it gives you kind of a glimpse into what happened before. We are following the character of Kirsten here. You see the older version, Mackenzie Davis, behind Logan there, is sort of the main character throughout this series. She's this little girl, an actress on Broadway. The main actor, played by Gabriel Garcia. The actor, he dies on stage. It's a big deal there. This guy from the audience, Javine, comes up and, tries to help out. Everybody's in shock. They don't know what's happening. This guy's collapsed on stage. And Javine comes up there. And then slowly throughout the episode, you start hearing whispers from people about this flu that's going around. And it's really bad. It's taking people out. People are flocking the hospitals. It's getting overcrowded, and it feels like the world is collapsing very quickly.
Setup of the show is really well done. Like the first few episodes, I was hooked, and then it kind of went downhill towards the middle and the end. But the great setup of this is, what's going on, having the Chicago landscape, which was very cool. There's shots in the beginning with Devine, up at his apartment. It reminded me of your old place there in Lake Michigan in a Hyde Park in Chicago. So that was really cool the way it looked. And then towards when they fast forward to 20 years, you see it looks like The Last of Us throughout the city. You have vines and trees growing in apartments, and it reminded me of playing the game. So I thought that was really, really well done. And it really had a great atmosphere to it, much like, maybe early Walking Dead. A lot of suspense and introducing these characters. Like I said, it fast forwards 20 years later, Mackenzie Davis, older version of her, she's with this group of actors known as the Traveling Symphony, and you get to get introduced to all these different characters, one being Lori Petty. I haven't seen her in a very long time, but I thought she was really good.
Yeah, big actress, especially in the 90s there, hit after hit movie, and then kind of fell off, and we haven't seen too much from her since. So yeah, it's nice seeing her on screen again. Hopefully we see more out of her. She's always interesting. She's always been one of those actresses that you can't miss in films. But yeah, she's part of this traveling symphony. She's the conductor of it all. She's always playing the musical parts for the actors. And this traveling symphony, as you call it, they do a lot of plays. They'll do Shakespeare, all these interesting things. They go around to different, survival camps and groups and go and perform for them and, give them some sort of semblance of hope. Basically. So yeah, in the beginning, like I was mentioning at the play, Javine went up on stage when the actor died. And he ends up sort of taking care of Kirsten in this. Her parents can't get there to pick her up. He's going to walk her home. He walks her home late at night. Nobody's home. She can't get in. So she ends up going with him. And that's when, the big outbreak has happened. Everybody needs to stock up and and get to safety as quickly as possible because this thing's getting out of control fast. So those two and their relationship throughout this show are very integral to what's going on. And it also has Station 11 itself is this graphic novel. In the film, we end up, following more of the character of that actor who passed away. He's Arthur Leander. He's this big actor, and he's doing Hamlet on Broadway here with Kirsten. But he ends up having this girlfriend who ends up writing this graphic novel, Station 11, and you sort of follow those two characters. There's a lot of story there. So it's not really worth explaining everything to you guys. But the main takeaway of this show for me is I thought it was, I liked where it was heading in the first, 3-4 episodes, but just as it went on, it flashes back in time so much that it leaves you confused a lot. Like, okay, where are we? It definitely wants the viewers to do a lot of homework and try to figure out where things are going from here. There's a lot of big, huge concepts, and it makes sense that the guy from The Leftovers did this because that's kind of the same kind of show in that way, where it's this high concept. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on that you have to think about. But what I didn't really enjoy about this mostly is like a lot of the characters I just didn't like. It felt really pretentious to me for some reason. Like this group of people that, like, everyone is very interesting, like nobody's just sort of average. They've all got this, they're doing this traveling symphony, everybody's an artist. But it never shows like what they have to do to survive, really. It's kind of like them all happy, they've got everything they need. Like survival doesn't seem to be an issue for them, but they just want to like go around and do these plays, and then they end up meeting this dangerous faction. And of course, that's where you're going to make the comparisons to The Walking Dead, The Last of Us, like you mentioned, and shows like that. But it felt like, we've kind of seen that before. But this version and the story they're trying to tell in this just felt like it was trying to be more important than it really ended up turning out on screen. And that's how I kind of felt about it. The whole thing is this big concept with this graphic novel and the story between these people that are all sort of interconnected, but like it went all over the place. It like went in and out of time at weird spots. Like there'd be like 3 episodes following Kirsten, and then there'd be 2 just like following separate story. Like it just takes you out of it within those 10 episodes. It never like really gelled together, and it wasn't able to stick the landing because of that. It was just kind of all over the place.
I would totally agree with you. We were talking about this, we were texting back and forth about this. I remember we both started it really excited, really enjoyed it. And then the last part, we're both like, this is fucking slow as molasses. It's just hard to get through. Like 2 episodes, it felt like 2 hours long. Like it just, nothing happened. And I was really disappointed by that because I thought it had such potential. There's the way that it's all set up and a lot of comparisons and things going on in the world today. I had a lot to say in this. But yeah, it didn't stick the landing. The last 5 episodes were kind of lame, and especially the very end didn't really tie up a lot of loose ends. There's too much going on. You get lost in the shuffle throughout the last part. I don't know if there's the writing, but it just wasn't cohesive with the first part. It started off strong and just fell flat for me. I did like some performances in this. Obviously, Mackenzie Davis is always great in what she does. Being the focal point, Lori Petty especially. I thought great seeing her on screen again. A lot of characters that show up along the way. Actor that played Jeevan was actually really good too, and I liked his little Cubs beanie he was wearing in the show. It was cool. A lot of Chicago love in this. I like the atmosphere. Obviously, us being from Chicago or living in Chicago and being on the Lake Michigan, and even going to the Michigan side in the show. I thought that was cool. With that being said, I'm giving Station 11 on HBO Max a 3 out of 5 Mackenzie Davis hair pieces.
I agree with a lot of what you just said. Definitely the acting is really good in the show from both young and old. Kirsten, the girl, Matilda Lawler as young Kirsten, I think she's going to be a really good actress as she grows and, into a young adult. She does a really good job as the kid Kirsten. Like I kind of felt more for her, playing young Kirsten and that actress than I felt with Mackenzie Davis. Mackenzie Davis is good, but she's just, I don't know. It just felt like it was kind of the same kind of tone throughout. I didn't feel a lot of, a growth with her character really. And the acting was great. And also Hamesh Patel as Jeevan. Their relationship's really what carried the film. And that's the problem with me for this is that in the ending episode and what happens and what we see, like it should have made more of an impact because that's what the whole story was about. And it just didn't, because we were all over the place. Unfortunately, it didn't nail that ending like The Leftovers did for me. There was all this crazy high concept stuff, but then in the finale, it lived up to the hype. It didn't just like leave you like, oh, okay, we got to kind of guess what happens from here, kind of a thing. But there's things to like about it. I thought the the cinematography and the directing was on point. Like everything was good. All the performances were there. I mean, I didn't have any complaints acting wise. It was just, like you mentioned, a lot of long drawn out dialogue and not a lot of action. So the episodes feel really long. It took me a couple weeks to watch this, whereas other shows I would have been able to binge that within, 5 nights or something like that. This one, I had to, wait a few days in between watching the episodes because it's heavy and there's a lot going on. Elizabeth Debicki's also in the show, worth mentioning. I thought she did a good job. We get to see her, when she was younger and then 20 years later. I liked David Wilmot too as Clark. He was a fun character to follow too. So there were good moments. And like you mentioned, of course, Lori Petty. There were good moments, all the acting. It's just the story didn't nail it and didn't keep me in, unfortunately. You guys will enjoy the first couple episodes for sure. Like it had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, it just didn't quite meet the mark for me. So with that being said, I'm going to give Station 11 on HBO Max a 3 out of 5 Mackenzie Davis hairpieces.
So we're interested in hearing Wild Rascal's thoughts on Station 11. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to click subscribe. Also, check out these Wild Boys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our website, cinephellas.com, for the latest, greatest TV, movie news, and reviews. Thank you guys for joining us tonight as we reviewed for you Station 11, the miniseries, or limited series, I should say, on HBO Max. Worth watching, but unfortunately just didn't, it wasn't a home run for us, but that's okay. It still had its good qualities and is worth being seen. It was heavily advertised during the pandemic, and I could see why it was a hit. Everybody was hungry for, original shows and movies, and there wasn't a lot happening, in these long months in the pandemic. So Station 11 overall, we didn't love it, but not too terrible. Thank you guys so much for watching our review. We will be back very shortly to cover more. We got a couple of shows that we will be reviewing very soon. So until the next Cinephellas TV review, I'm Uncle Henry. That's my good mate, Logan Myers. And we are signing out from Station 11. Cheers.